Hello, beautiful, wonderful people. It is your girl Simone Nicole here, back at it again with another video. And in today's video, we are going to be doing a story time. Today's story time is going to be about the various times that I've had to call 911 in my lifetime. And these are nowhere near every single time I've had to call 911, but they're definitely things that stick out to me. Now, before we hop into the story time, we of course have to do our subscriber shout out. So good. Today's subscriber shout out is going to go to Miss Tammy Lynn. She commented on my worst first date ever story time, and child, the baby went off. She said, I'm gonna read them from the bottom up. Not it didn't go through for like $20. Why would he even want to go out if he didn't even have gas money? How he a drug dealer with no money? Listen, you're gonna be mad confused if you've never seen that video before. So just do yourself a favor, go ahead and watch that story time, and then come back here and then watch this story time, and then you'll be all caught up with me and Miss Tammy, and we can have a little kiki and a little laugh together. Thank you so much, Miss Tammy, for leaving me those funny comments underneath my video, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch my video and to be subscribed to my channel. And if you all would like to be my next subscriber shout out, then all you have to do is 1, be subscribed, and 2, comment on my videos, leave a little bit of funny, a little bit of positivity, whatever you would like, baby girl, and maybe you could be my next subscriber shout out of the day. And with all that being said, let's hop right into today's video. I believe I'm going to start from the least traumatic to arguably the most traumatic. For this next story about why I had to call 911, technically I'm cheating by throwing it in here because I didn't call 911, I called the non-emergency number, because y'all know how I be about my feelings. Y'all know how I be about my intuition. So I remember it was pretty late at night, and I actually had a really late appointment to get my lashes done. This was right before I went to Puerto Rico. I was filming like the outro for one of my videos, and I was running a little late because of it. So I got up to leave the house, and I don't know the exact sequence of events. I live in an apartment complex, and we have a security door, and the security door is all glass for the most part. So you can see straight out into the parking lot. I was standing at my door, and I live on a floor where I can look down, so I wasn't eye to eye with this person. But I was locking my door, and I looked over, and I saw this man. He was dressed in like khakis, but then he had on like a reflective vest, but it wasn't a reflective vest like someone, like it was his profession. It was like a weird reflective top kind of thing. And it was like raining. It was either raining or it was snowing. And all he had on was that vest, some khakis, and he was holding a succulent. Like, you know, like those little, I'll put a picture up on the screen, just walking around with it. He walked up to about where he was about maybe 8 feet away from the security door, stood there. He couldn't see me, but I could see him. And then he turned around and he walked away. And I was like, that's really freaking weird. So I came back inside because I was like, Ma, this is really weird. And she was like, what are you talking about? So we start observing this man's actions before I go outside, because I don't want to go outside while he's outside. So we start watching him, y'all. This man does not live in my complex. I know the faces that live around my complex at this point. He starts doing the same thing to everyone else's security door as well, where he will walk up until he's about 6 feet away from the security door and then turn around. In the middle of the night, not in the middle of the night, it was like 9 o'clock at night, holding this succulent, just walking up and turning around and walking back away. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is really creepy. I thought that he went away, so I was like, okay, let me like go down to my car, which is dumb. Shouldn't have done that. Should have just stayed in my freaking house. But I had an appointment I was trying to get to. I am about to go out of the security door, and I stand there with my hand on the door because he has somehow made his round to be right back in front of my building. And he sees me see him, and he has his succulent, and he turns and he walks away. I then get into my car, and I lock my doors immediately. And I'm like, what is this dude doing? Like, should I call 911? Like, should I call the police? Because this is mad weird. I get in my car and I start to follow where I last saw him at. The way our complex is kind of set up is like, it's buildings, and then we have our parking lot, and then we have a small parking like garage facility in the middle of all of that. And behind the garage are actually dumpsters. So I was watching him from my car, and I saw him go around the parking facility and then hang a right to go behind it. But there's nothing behind there but forest and our dumpster. I drive back there, and all of a sudden he just pops out from behind the building and walks in front of my car, and then proceeds to do the same thing of walking up to a security door. And I'm pretty sure at least once he tried the security door to see if it was open, and it wasn't. So then he moved on to the next building. First of all, there was multiple things that ended up making me call the non-emergency number. One was the way that he went up to security doors, tried them, and then backed away. And second of all, the fact that when I was driving away, there was another man that I did not recognize in a car, hanging outside of the car, like kind of like with his elbow like on his knee. It is cold outside. Let's keep in mind, it is cold outside, and he has the door open with his elbow on his knee. And I don't know if he was on his phone, he was doing something, and they were dressed extremely similarly. And I don't know what y'all want to make of that. Let me know in the comments down below what you make of that. But it just didn't sit well with me. And at the end of the day, this is my neighborhood, this is my home, and I felt as though this was sketchy. Like, this was not normal. Why are you walking around with the succulent at 9 p.m. in this like weird reflective vest outfit thing? What is really good here? So I called my mom and I was like, do you think I'm overreacting? And she was like, no. And she was like, I'm actually watching him and he just keeps on doing it. And then I guess that his buddy got out the car and they started doing some weird stuff together too. My mom didn't go into depth about it because once she saw the buddy as well, she was like, no, go ahead and call the non-emergency number. So I'm literally on the way to my lash appointment talking to the non-emergency police, and I was like, hey, like, I don't know if I'm overreacting. I'm so sorry. Like, if I'm like about to waste y'all time. I don't know. I just know how I feel. I know how uncomfortable and how weird that was. And I just feel like they have police officers driving around all the time. I live in a very, very safe neighborhood. So they have officers driving around apartment complexes, driving around neighborhoods all the time just because, to make sure that everything is good. So I'm like, go ahead and send one of them over there now to see what's really good. The lady was really, really nice. She thanked me and she was like, I will have an officer come over there. Then I get another call, and it was actually a police officer. He called me and he was like, hi, did you call non-emergency because you were concerned about some like happenings in your neighborhood? And I was like, yeah, I did. The police officer was so nice. And he was like, let's call him like Greg. He's like, yeah, my name is Greg. Greg kind of sounded like he was kind of cute too. But he was like, hi, like, my name is Greg. Like, if I took a ride around and I did see one of the guys, but I didn't see the other one. They didn't look like they were doing anything major, but I am gonna like stick around and like just kind of make my presence known. I apologized to him too. I'm like, do you think I'm overreacting? Like, what do you think this is? And he was like, never, ever, ever hesitate to call us. Never hesitate to just say anything. If you feel a way, then just say it. If it's something, then we'll figure it out. And if it's nothing, then basically no harm, no foul. So once he came through in the cruiser, they left and we never saw them or heard of them again.
As I'm editing, I can already feel the people in the comments wanting to explain this incident away. And while I do clearly see and understand that this situation is easily explainable, like it could be somebody that was just lost and was trying to get to somebody's house and they had a housewarming gift of one individual succulent that they were carrying in their hand. I don't know. The moral of the story is you need to follow your gut and don't try to explain something away when something is genuinely creepy. Like, especially my young ladies out there, err on the side of safety and paranoia instead of talking yourself out of your intuition, period.
Moving on to the third situation in which I had to call 911. This one is a story that I've actually told previously on my channel, but it got demonetized for some reason. And whenever your videos get demonetized, and they're automatically suppressed, because if YouTube can't make any money off of the video, then they don't even bother pushing it out to their YouTube audience. This took place again when I was in Atlanta, I think 2 years ago at this point. I went with my friend at the time. Let's name her Stephanie. Stephanie and I found this place where it was in Midtown. We found this place. I forget the name of the restaurant, but across the street is a Mellow Yellow, and that's like a really, really popular pizza chain in Atlanta. I think that we might have one in Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken. No, we definitely have one in Cleveland. So the restaurant that we were at has a patio. So we were sitting outside on the patio, and whilst various other things happened on this same patio, for some reason we felt the need to come back and be on this patio again, and this time it was at night. Stephanie and I were at dinner with a friend. While we were eating, we were just in a position to where we could see the front of this Mellow Yellow across the street. This girl came tumbling out of the Mellow Yellow. She came out of the door, and there was 1 or 2 steps down. She tripped, her foot slid down the first step, and she was holding on to the door, and because she lost her footing, she like tumbled onto her side, like holding on to the door. Like, she was so drunk that she could not take a minor step down onto the pavement on the actual street. So that's when we noticed her, because she essentially fell out of the establishment. She was still like in her work clothes. It looked like she came there for like a happy hour kind of deal, and she probably got more than she bargained for. So we were watching concerned, because this woman was completely and totally by herself. She started going up the street, like going north. And this gang of dudes approached her and like basically started like harassing her, but she couldn't even defend herself. I don't think any of them physically touched her, but they came really freaking close to it, and we could kind of hear the conversation, and they're like, so what you doing tonight? Da, 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 blah, blah, blah. This girl can basically even hold her head up, and these men are acting like this. Disgusting. So they end up passing her and letting her alone, and at this point, me and Stephanie are looking at each other like, so should we call the police? The girl changes her course, and instead of going up north, now she is coming back down south on the road, basically like coming from where she was when she left the pizza spot. At that point, there is an intersection. She gets to the corner, and she is hanging on to the light pole literally like this. Like, she wasn't like trying to like dance or like be like, oh, the stars at night. No. She could not hold her body upright. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this random car pulls up. I guess like in hindsight, it could have easily been an Uber. Like, maybe the establishment called her an Uber to get home. Okay, maybe. But I don't know what at the time counted that out for us completely. Like, that wasn't even a conversation of something that could have been going on. Both of us were like, who is that? It did not seem like an Uber. And in big cities like Atlanta, a lot of Ubers have a sign on their car, on their back windshield or on their front windshield that says Uber or Lyft, so that you know that at least like they got a sticker at least. Like, they could be lying, but at least they got a sticker. Like, come on. She comes off the light pole, and she is trying to get into the car, and she falls onto the ground. She's on the ground at this point. And she's trying to like open the door from the ground. And the only reason that we can see this is because she's trying to open the back passenger door. So since she's on the ground and she's trying to open it, we can see her on the ground, and we can kind of like see the top of her head. The driver then gets out of the car, and he gets out of the car in a way that you would expect for him to be frustrated, because if he is indeed, like, let's say he's an Uber driver, you're going to be frustrated that you have to pick up this sick, might throw up in your car kind of girl. But he had a different type of energy. It wasn't annoyance. It was more of, I need this to be over with. Like, you need to get in the car right now. So I'm on the phone with the police. I've heard this from people in big cities plenty of times, where they say the police are literally pointless.
Hey y'all, me again. So I got a little turned around when I was telling the story, so I'm going to jump in and clarify some things. So I have been on the phone with the 911 operator, or at least trying to get through to someone, since the girl had her run-in with the group of guys. So we had been on the phone with 911 talking to somebody or just waiting on hold for at least 3 to 5 minutes. So when she finally got on the line, I told her what restaurant I was at, and I realized I'm in a big city and they can't like triangulate your cell phone like they can in movies, but she was just really rude about the fact that I didn't know the address that I was at, which I found to be really weird because it's an emergency situation. Like sometimes people don't know their address. So I'm explaining to her what intersection we're at because the restaurant is at an intersection, and I gave her the 2 street names and the name of the restaurant, and she's like, well, that's not enough. So we're going back and forth, and I'm trying to find the address to this restaurant. And while all of that's happening, the car pulls up and she proceeds to go back and forth with getting in the car. So I'm literally on the phone with the operator saying, oh my God, a car just pulled up. We don't think that this is an Uber. This seems weird. Oh my gosh, like she's trying to get in the car. Like I'm narrating all this to the 911 operator, and she literally could not be bothered to care.
So while I'm going back and forth with this lady, at this point, the man then got her literally shoved into the car. And when I say I've never watched somebody pull off so fast, when I say he literally whipped around that corner so fast he almost went up on 2 freaking wheels. I described the make, the model, the color of the car. I gave them, I might have even gave them the license plate number. As long as I can make it out, I probably gave them the license plate number as well. So I basically told her, like, look, she's gone. Like, I don't really know what to do at this point because the girl is gone. If she was in danger of getting kidnapped, well, baby girl, she's gone at this point. So I'm frustrated. Me and Stephanie, we're pissed because I'm like, what is the issue here? What's really good here? So we hang up and we're eating and we're talking about all of our crazy experiences while we've been here. Child, next thing you know, a police officer walk in there. Talk about some, my dude, it's been at least 30 to 40 minutes since she last left. And you're gonna, you just walked up in here like, call the police. Yeah, I called the police an hour ago. I was really frustrated because I just felt like this was an urgent situation and everybody is just acting like it's nothing. And you know, maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was an Uber, but I'm gonna need y'all to have a little bit more agency. Like, come on here. Like, what if that was your daughter? He basically came to get our statements and then he was like, okay, thank you so much for being a good Samaritan, and then he left. Girl. And on to the last story for today. This took place when I was probably about 15 or 16 years old, and I was at my grandmother's house, and my grandmother has a corner store right across from her house. So we would walk there all the time to like get our little snacks and things. So I was walking back from the corner store, and there was this car parked across the street from my grandma's house. So I had to walk past his car when I was going back to my grandma's house. So I walked past his car and I looked in his window. And as an adult, I know exactly what I saw. But as a child, I was confused because I looked in the car and I saw a man. He looked like he was completely unconscious. And there was some brown stuff in a spoon and a needle. And to add insult to injury, there was an elastic band tied around his arm. Now, us adults in the room know exactly what was happening in that car. But 16-year-old Simone was like, what is going on here? Like, I'm so confused. I was just concerned because I thought that he had passed out. So I went inside to my grandmother's house to grab adults because I'm like, I think that this guy is like dead. And so the adults went over to the car and everyone was kind of like trying to stay away because we didn't want to be like acting like he was like a fish in a fishbowl. I don't remember who told me to call the police, but they were like, call 911 because he might need some medical attention. I'm on the phone with 911 and I remember that I was walking around the car and I was looking and they were asking me like, what was the issue and what was the emergency, and I was describing like the man and the car and why I was concerned. And there was maybe like 2 or 3 of my family members that were outside in the car with me. I have the most vivid memory of being on the phone and that man When I say rose from the dead and looked out at us, he looked up at us like squirrel. And he looked left, he looked right. He didn't even take his keys out of the ignition. He literally turned the engine over and sped off down the road, and then hung a right and was onto a main road and out of sight. I remember being like, what just happened? And I was on the phone with 911 like, oh, he just drove away, like blah blah blah, I don't really know what to do. And at that point the operator was like, well, if he drove away, then there's just not much that we can do, and like he's clearly conscious, so I'm gonna let you go. So we hang up, and of course all of the adults start discussing it. So I'm standing there because I'm an adult too. What you talking about? They were talking about the fact that he was doing drugs and that he was high. And I was like, he was high? I'm happy that I had been sheltered in that way to where I didn't see the scene that I saw and immediately know what was happening. That's a blessing. But I remember that conversation really put me on to some adult things at my ripe old age, okay? Looking back on it as an adult, this man was an addict. He was getting high in his car, and he saw all of us looking at him, and he knew that if the police had showed up, he would have been arrested on sight. So he wasn't dead, luckily. He was just really, really high. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Let me know what you guys think about the stories that I told today. How many times have y'all had to call 911? Like, is it weird that I have this many stories and I'm not even telling y'all all the other times I've had to call 911? Like, these are just the times that stick out in my memory. Is that weird, or does everyone have to call 911? Like, do you think that I was tripping that the lady was getting kidnapped, or do you think that it was just a frustrated Uber driver? Do you think the man outside of my apartment was just like sleep deprived and he wasn't up to nothing funny and he just really liked succulents? What are your thoughts? Make sure that you leave them down below, and I hope that you guys enjoyed today's story time. Make sure you thumbs up to let me know that you are indeed enjoying my story times and that you would like to see more of them. And if you have any other video requests or video ideas, make sure that you drop them down below, or just any other thoughts that you might have. Make sure that you subscribe, share this video with your mother-in-law, with your sister, with your brother, with your daddy, with your uncle, with your whoever. And with all that being said, remember to keep positivity in your life, because positivity breeds positivity, and we have absolutely no time for negativity in 2020. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.